Hey, what's going on, traders? Happy Friday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. As usual, I'm going to go ahead and provide you guys with an update and let you guys know exactly how my day trading went. So let's get right into today's video. And I did want to make a quick disclaimer, right? As you guys can see from the top, I am trading on a simulation account today, right? So this was not real money. I did want to make you guys aware of that. And so as you guys can see, in terms of how I did on the day, it looks really weird and messy, right? For some reason, it split it up into two accounts, but this loss here was actually a lot bigger than it seems. I was actually down about $125 on SQQQ before it switched to this account, right? I don't know why it was acting weird, but in total, in terms of how much I was up on the day, it was about $62, right? I know it may not seem like that because I was green here and green here, but I was actually had an open position on SQQQ. Not too sure why that was there, but so I was up about $112 on the day, lost it all plus another $12 as you guys can see. Made some money on TQQQ, and then I ended up it switched me to this account for some reason as I continue to trade, right? So I ended up making another $33 on SQs and another 68 on TQs, right? So if you add it up and do the math, in total I was up about $62, right? So I'm going to go ahead and explain exactly how I was able to profit, right? But as you guys can see, these are all my trades, right? You guys can see I started trading at 650 and I didn't stop until about 12:34, right? So I was trading a decent amount of time throughout the day, right? And so let me let you guys know exactly what I saw going on. So as you guys can tell, looking at the NASDAQ, it had this huge drop during the pre-market session at 5:30 a.m., right? And for any of you guys wondering, why this huge drop even occurred, well, at 5:30 a.m., right, there was pretty much the unemployment rate reports that were coming out that were, pretty much specifying. Well, let me actually pull it up and show you. I believe I had it pulled up here, right? Yeah. So if you can see over here, right? So in terms of Friday, the reports we had a decent amount at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time or 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, right? And it included the unemployment rate, right? The average work week, the non-farm payrolls, all of this stuff. And so, you guys may be wondering, well, if it was expected for the non-farm payrolls to be 200K, right? Why did we and it actually beat expectations, and we saw 263K of non-farm payrolls, right? And the private ones 221K. So if there were more payrolls than expected, why would that cause the market to drop? Isn't that weird? Like you would expect if there were more payrolls, right, for the market to actually react positively, but as we can see, that wasn't the case, right? So why did this actually cause the market to tank? Well, in this market, pretty much, right, with all of the interest rate hikes that the Federal Reserve has been giving, right? It's the reason why they've been raising the interest rate hikes is so that they can cause the consumer spending as a whole to just go down, and also for the labor market, they want to just cool it off, right? They want to stop companies from expanding and hiring and doing all this spending, right? And so if there are more people, right, on payroll than what was even expected, right, then so that means that the Federal Reserve, right, they are going to be that much more encouraged to keep raising interest rates because of the fact that it's not doing what they intended it to, right? They're intending for, right, the labor market to cool off, for consumer spending to calm down. But this, right, what they were expecting versus what was actually reported was a big discrepancy, right? There was a lot more payrolls. And for any of you even wondering what non-farm payrolls are, I was too, right? It's pretty simple. It's just, right, they're pretty much, it's a list of goods, construction, and manufacturing companies in the U.S., and it doesn't include farm workers, private household employees, or nonprofit organization employees, right? So pretty much any employment that doesn't, excluding these three, fields, right? And so as we saw, it did increase in terms of how much was reported, so that causes the market to drop because, as I mentioned, this is just only going to motivate the Federal Reserve to continue raising these interest rates, right? Because it's not having the effect that they intended it to have, right? Sorry if I'm making it seem complicated, but it really shouldn't be that complicated. And so, and if you even take a look at some of these other metrics, right? Even like for example, the average hour work week was the only one that dropped a little bit, right, than was actually expected. And in terms of the actually average hourly earnings, that went up too, right? What was expected was 0.3%. We got 0.6%, right? So all of these, although they sound good, right, long term, the market reacted negatively because of the, worry of the repercussions from the Federal Reserve actually, implementing higher interest rate hikes. But that's pretty much what caused the market to tank. And so when we typically see this big type of movement, right, what can normally follow, doesn't mean it has to, is the price will tend to correct itself back up to where it was, right? So we were trading at around 12,000 to 12,100 for the NASDAQ feature, right? Well, this thing caused this thing to drop, about 200 to 300 points. So we dropped all the way down to 11,740, my apologies. And we did end up finding a support, right? So it started to form these higher highs and higher lows throughout the day. And so that is what I was able to take advantage of, right? So this thing sold off, right? Heading into market open, we're already starting to recover, right? So this thing bounced, right? Tried selling off again, but ended up forming this higher low, right? Then formed this higher high, right? It continued to push on, right? Heading into market open is when we saw this big, surge all the way back up to the middle VWAP. So we saw this nice movement here, right? We did see it peak out, get rejected, and start to sell off. And so, where I lost a lot of money was around here as the Nasdaq started to sell off. I thought we were going to continue to sell off for the day, right? So I got in pretty aggressive into SQQQ and was averaging up, and I was up a decent amount, but as you guys can see, it started to reverse. I didn't do the best in terms of, cutting my loss and managing risk, right, and reducing my shares. And so this thing started to push up, and I decided to cut losses at break above this previous resistance, right? And so as this thing pushed up, pulled on back, here's where I was able to start making money on TQQQ, right? This thing would pull on back, I would get into TQQQ, I would reduce my position at previous, resistance levels, and then as this thing started to sell off, I would get back into SQQQ, right? And then I would sell it for profit. I wasn't, getting the best entries and exits, but what I pretty much realized was this thing had a big sell-off, right? The price started to correct itself back up to the middle VWAP. Not only did it sell off, but it was able to break above it again, right? And so in my eyes, because of the fact that it was able to break above the previous resistance, I thought that we were going to see this type of upward staircase pattern to where it'll pretty much push up, pull on back, push up, pull on back, right? But not go as low as it did, push up even higher than it did, pull on back, right? Or higher highs and higher lows, right? And so that's exactly what I was doing. As this thing started to push up, right, I would be getting into TQQQ. As it approached more overextended levels, right, where it broke above the previous resistance, I would expect some form of pullback. So I would start to get into SQQQ. Why did I expect a pullback somewhere here, for example? Well, as I mentioned, I just saw it happen. So anytime it breaks above the previous resistance, it would pull on back before it continues to push up, right? As you see, it would peak out, pull on back, peak out. And so I felt a pullback coming, and I was able to make back, some on SQQQ here. And then the nice little rally to end, the market close. Over here, I actually wasn't able to take advantage of it that much because of the fact that, I didn't know if because of the fact that we were heading to market close that we were going to potentially see this thing get rejected and fall, right? But there was obviously a chance it could have continued to stay bullish, and that's what ended up happening. So, I'm really excited for the way it ended up playing out, right? And the fact that I was able to actually, call out what this was actually going to do, right? I wasn't able to take advantage of it to my best ability, but the fact that I was, on the right side of direction for the majority of the day is honestly what, led to me feeling like I had a pretty successful day. One thing I can implement and improve on is I need to do a better job of when I'm fully leveraged in, when it starts to go south, to reduce my position early on, right? Because the fact that I was in this thing fully invested, I was up money, then gave it all back. It's too big of a movement fully leveraged for me to, for it to really make sense, right? The fact that I'm letting it ride all the way back up here fully invested, it's just being very hopeful, right? Just being hopeful that this thing was going to continue to sell off. And it's what, doesn't allow me to end really green on some days, right? Just imagine if I didn't take this big loss here and I was able to capitalize on the rest of the movements, I could have been up, at least $100 on the day, right? But the fact that I, let this thing turn into such a big loss, and then I had to recover that loss and then gain profit on the day is what, really leads to me not being able to end as green as I really want to be. But that's something I am going to be working on every day, and as long as I show up and practice every day, I don't see why I can't improve. And that goes with you guys too. You know, if you guys are on your trading journey and are struggling with something, the more you practice and show up every day, I really don't see, you know, how you can't get better at it. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today, right? The report did cause this thing to fall, but we did have a nice recovery back up to the where it was previously trading, right? In terms of the bigger picture for the NASDAQ, this doesn't really mean that we're going to start to uptrend, right? We're still at, you know, more overbought levels. We can still continue to sell off, right? Doesn't mean just because we had this nice, you know, few reports that push it up that we're just going to start to uptrend, right? We just got to keep it real and know we are at more of a resistance level. We can potentially pull on back, and so we do want to be prepared for it. But yep, that's pretty much everything I want to talk about today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and, you know, taking the time out of your day to go ahead and watch this video. But, you know, I hope you guys all enjoyed your Friday. If you guys have any questions at all stock related, or if you guys want me to break down any stock that you guys personally see value in, or any stock indicator, I'll be more than happy to do that. Just go ahead and drop a comment. But that's pretty much everything. My brother will be posting on Monday, so we will see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your weekend.